Hello everyone, myself Dr. Madhuri, Assistant Professor of Microbiology from Government Degree College for Women, Begumpet. Today we are dealing with the topic ultrastructure of bacterial cell. Now my presentation is having following contents. Here we will be dealing with the shapes of bacteria and structures which are present external to the cell wall, that is flagella, pili, capsule, cell wall, and structures present internal to the cell wall, the cell membrane, mesosomes, ribosomes, nucleoid, etc. And apart from this, specialized cell structures such as storage granules, gas vacuoles, carboxysomes, magnetosomes, endospores, all this will be dealt in this session. Now first, coming to definition of bacteria. Bacteria are prokaryotic microorganisms. Now first we have to understand the meaning of prokaryote. Pro means primitive, karyon means nucleus. It means that in bacteria the nucleus is in a primitive condition. Okay, what is this primitive condition? Here the DNA which is present in the center of the cell is not bound by any nuclear membrane. It is the main difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, so prokaryotes and eukaryotes are differing in the presence and absence of nuclear membrane. In prokaryotes it is absent, and in eukaryotes it is present. And apart from nuclear membrane, prokaryotes are also lacking in membrane bound organelles such as endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, Golgi complex, etc. And these prokaryotes or bacteria will usually have plasmids. Plasmids are extra chromosomal genetic elements which serve different functions, and the size of bacteria is ranging, can be measured in micrometers. Now, where we can find this bacteria? Usually, these bacteria are omnipresent. What is omnipresent? Omnipresent means they are present everywhere. Means they are present on our skin, on our body, inside our body, on the plants, animals, in air, on land, in water. Everywhere we can see these microorganisms or bacteria. So that is why we are calling them as omnipresent. And if you see the history, they are the earliest inhabitants of the earth. They are very much old uh, living beings which are present on this earth. They are around 3 into 10 to the power of 9 years old. And as I said, they are present in different areas such as soil, water, earth, hot springs, radioactive waste, earth crust, etc. And these bacteria are showing symbiotic and parasitic relation. Symbiotic means they are living together with other organisms. Parasitic means they are causing diseases in other host body. And if if we want to count the number of bacteria, okay, if you take 1 gram of soil, there are around 40 million bacteria in that 1 gram of soil. So we can we can estimate abundance of this bacteria. And coming to human body, there are many number of cells in human body. Whatever be the number of cells, the number of bacteria which are present inside the human body is 10 times more than the number of cells present in the human body. So this shows the importance or prevalence of bacteria in nature. Now, importance of bacterial studies. Now, why we have to study about bacteria? First and foremost thing which is very much important is these bacteria or prokaryotic microorganisms, they are used as models, or they are used as tools in research. What, why only bacteria or why only prokaryotes which are being used, are preferred in research, is due to their smaller size and fast reproduction. It means they reproduce very fast. For example, E. coli becomes double, a cell becomes double in 30 minutes. So in such a very less time, we will be getting more number of cells, more generations can be generated, which helps in research studies. And these bacteria, they also help in fermentation. Coming to fermentation is, we are using fermented products, many fermented products in our daily life. For best example is curd. And then if you see idli batter, docha batter, all these, wine, cheese, everything, most of the products are fermented products. So this fermentation is also basically carried out by bacteria. And coming to nutrient recycling, okay, if if a person die or any organism is dying, right, so that has to be recycled. Whatever is present in the dead body, whether it is a plant, animal, or any other organism, that has to be recycled in nature, which is done mostly by microorganisms. And apart from this, nitrogen fixation, about 90% of nitrogen fixation is done by bacteria. What is nitrogen fixation? It is the conversion of atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia, and 90% of this process is mostly done by bacteria. And apart from this, they are also helpful in um, production of food for animals and humans, and they are also helping us in cleaning our environments by recycling of waste and minerals, and even they are helping in soil fertility. So with this, we can understand the importance of bacterial in our nature. Now, this chart shows the relative size of bacteria. Okay, here in this slide, you can see the bacteria in the center. This is the bacteria. Okay, it is, its size is ranging from some micrometers, 1 micrometer to maybe 10 micrometers. Okay, so if we see towards left side, okay, here there are viruses and biomolecules are there, and towards right side there are organelles of eukaryotic cells and other. If we go further, you can see this eukaryotic cells. So these are bigger than the bacteria, and these things are smaller than the bacteria. Coming to the size of bacteria, if we see the numerical values, we know that bacteria are of different shapes. Okay, if we take spherical bacteria, the size will be of 0.5 to 2 microns. And if we take rod shaped bacteria, length will be around 1 to 10 micrometers, and diameter can range from 0.25 to 1 micrometer. And spirochetes is a filamentous cell. Its length range from 500 micrometers, and it is one of the largest bacteria which can be seen through naked eye is Epilopiscium fiscioloni, and its size is ranging from 600 micrometers into 80 micrometers. This can be seen through naked eye. And smallest bacteria is Mycoplasma gallisepticum. Its size is ranging from 200 to 300 nanometers. And one of the largest bacteria um, found recently is Thiomargarita namibiensis, and its size is ranging from 0.1 to 0.3 mm, and sometimes it can also go up to 0.75 millimeters. So now we have learned about sizes of bacteria. We have seen the variation in sizes of bacteria. Now let us learn about shapes of bacteria. Okay, coming to the shapes, in the previous slide also we have seen bacteria can be round shape or spherical shape, that is cocci, or it is rod shaped, it is bacillus. Comma shaped is called vibrio. And if it is a filamentous or spiral shaped, it is called as spirillum. So these are the four general shapes which we come across in bacteria. Okay, spherical shaped, rod shaped, comma shaped, and spiral shaped. Now, coming to the first type, that is cocci or spherical bacteria. The term cocci is taken from the Latin word coccus. Okay, coccus means grain or a kernel. Here, cocci cells or this bacteria, spherical bacteria, is exhibiting different types of arrangement. If we can see here, it is showing different types of arrangement. First one is micrococci or single cell. Okay, single cocci if it is there, it can be called as micrococci. And example, Micrococcus roseus. It is in this type of cocci is seen in Micrococcus roseus. And the next example is Diplococci. Diplococci, here the two spherical cells are attached to each other. Okay, here what is happening is cell is dividing, and after division cells are not getting separated, right? So these two cells are being together, that is called as Diplococci, and this type of cells are seen in Diplococcus pneumonia. And the third category is Streptococci. This is the Streptococci. Okay, here the cells are attached together in a line. Okay, in a series of cells are attached in a lengthwise manner. Here the cells are dividing in a single plane, but the cells are not separated after the divisions. This type of arrangement is seen in Streptococcus lactis. And fourth category is Staphylococci. Staphylococci is the grape bunch arrangement of spherical cells. Okay, this kind of cells is seen in Staphylococcus aureus. Here the cells are dividing in random different planes randomly. And tetrads is nothing but the arrangement of 4 cells in a packet. This kind of arrangement is seen in Aerococcus and Pediococcus. And coming to the last category, that is Sarcinae, is a cubical arrangement of spherical cells. This kind of arrangement is seen in Sarcina lutea. Next type of cells is Bacillus. Here Bacillus means rod shaped. Okay, in this the word bacillus is taken from the Latin word bacillum. Bacillum means stick or rod. Okay, here in this category, the first type of cells is Coccobacillus. Okay, here we can see two terms, one is cocci and the other one is bacillus. It means that these type of cells are intermediate between cocci and bacillus, and most often these cells are mistaken to be cocci, but they are showing the properties of or the shapes of both cocci and bacilli, or they are showing the intermediate shape between cocci and bacilli. This kind of cells are seen in Haemophilus influenzae. And the next one is Diplobacilli. Diplobacilli, here the two cells, two rod-shaped cells are attached to each other. This kind of arrangement is seen in Corynebacterium diphtheriae. And next is Streptobacilli. Streptobacilli is arrangement of rod-shaped cells in a linear manner. Okay, here this kind of arrangement is seen in Streptobacillus moniliformis. And the last kind of arrangement is palisade arrangement. This palisade arrangement is nothing but the cells are arranged in a lengthwise manner. Okay, they are attached to each other horizontally, and this kind of arrangement is seen in diphtheria bacilli. Next shape is Vibrio. Vibrio is a common comma shaped cell. Okay, these Vibrio cells can be seen in Vibrio cholerae. And the last category is Spirillum. These Spirillum bacteria are of spiral shaped. As the name suggests, it is a spiral shaped cell, and they appear like a corkscrew, and they are these type of cells are shown by Trypanosoma pallidum. It is a causative agent of STD. Whatever shapes we have discussed till now are the regular shapes. Apart from this, there are special shapes. They are filamentous, square shaped cells, pleomorphic cells, and star shaped cells. Okay, so coming to the first category, filamentous. Here you can see there are very lengthy cells arranged very haphazardly in a filamentous manner. Filamentous type, fungus type of mycelia are being seen here, but this is a bacteria. Okay, this kind of bacteria are seen in Candidatus sauvagella. And coming to the second type, here we can see till now whatever we have seen the bacillus, it is a rectangle shaped, but here the cells are square shaped. Okay, here this kind of square shaped cells are seen in Halorcula Vallis mortis. And the third category is pleomorphic cells. Pleomorphism is something called they are changing their shape. Here you can see this, the some of the cells are very lengthy and they're odd shape. Some of the cells are not exactly spherical, they are showing some other shapes. Okay, oval shaped, many different types of cells are shapes are being seen here, but all these cells are of the single microorganism, that is Mycoplasma pneumonia. Okay, here the organism is showing pleomorphism. Pleomorphism means they are exhibiting different shapes. And coming to the last category, that is stella or star shaped bacteria, is seen by stella bacteria. Now we have seen the general shapes and sizes of the bacteria. Coming to the actual part of this topic, that is ultrastructure of bacteria. Okay, so this is the actual diagram for ultrastructure, right? Here you can see the bacteria. This is the what do you say, sectional view. Here if we see from outer side, okay, this is the cell and this is the outer side of the cell. Okay, so first thing we can see the lengthy flagella, right? These are the flagella, they are helping in the motility of the cell. Okay, after flagella we are able to see these appendages, they are pili. Okay, so this pili, they are having different functions. And then after pili, the outermost layer is capsule. So this capsule is present in some of the bacteria and absent in some other bacteria. Okay, so it is not a compulsory structure, but outermost layer, most of the bacteria will be capsule. And then below the capsule there will be a cell wall, and then below the cell wall there is a cell membrane. Okay, so these three layers, and below this cell membrane there will be a gel like component will be there, that is called as cytoplasm. Okay, so this cytoplasm will have different components such as first chromosome. Chromosome here is DNA, okay, which is present in the center, which is not bound by any nuclear membrane, that is why it is called as a prokaryote, right? And in the cytoplasm we can also see the smaller organelles, that is ribosomes. Okay, as we know ribosomes are helping the cell in protein synthesis. And and there are also plasmids. What are these plasmids? They are extra chromosomal genetic elements. Okay, so these are not connected to this nucleoid. They are separate entities which are present in the cytoplasm. They are DNA molecules and they are having their own functions to the cell. And apart from this, we can also see here inclusion bodies, and not only inclusion bodies, there will be other organelles also. So first organelle of bacteria which we have to deal in detail is flagellum. As we have seen, we are proceeding from the outer side of the bacteria to inner side. Okay, so first let us study about this component, that is flagella. Flagella is made of protein called as flagellin. Okay, here if it is a single, we have to call it as flagellum. If it is a plural, we have to call it as flagella. Okay, singular can be called as flagellum and plural can be called as flagella, right? So what is the significance of flagella? First, it is helping in the motility. First, it is helping in the motility of the bacteria. And apart from this function, it is also acting as a taxonomic tool. Okay, taxonomic tool means here it is helping us to identify the type of bacteria. What type of bacteria we can identify by the flagellar arrangement also. Okay, now flagellum consists of what? It is made of three parts. One is basal body, second one is hook, and the third one is filament. Flagella is made of three parts, that is basal body, hook, and filament. Now coming to the diagram, this is the basal body which is present within the cell wall, and this is the hook, a connecting part between basal body and the filament. Filament is the actual part which we are able to see on the outer part of the cell. Now this is the flagellum seen in gram positive cells, and this is in the gram negative cells. Here flagella is having in gram positive cells, gram positive bacteria, the flagellum is having the basal body is having only two rings, that is M ring and S ring. M ring is nothing but membrane ring, and S ring is a periplasmic ring. Okay. Now in gram negative bacteria, the flagella is having four rings, that is M ring, S ring, P ring, and L ring. M ring is a membrane ring, S ring is a periplasmic space ring, P is the peptidoglycan ring, and L is the outer membrane ring. Different types of flagellar arrangement. So now we have seen the structure of flagellum. The flagellum can have different arrangements in different types of cells. Not only arrangement, the number of flagella also vary from one cell to another. Okay, if a cell is having only single flagellum, it is called as monotrichous. If it is having many flagellum but only at one end, it is called as lophotrichous. And if the cell is having flagellum as tufts on both ends of the cell, it is called as amphitrichous. And if a cell is having all over the surface, the flagella, if they are present all over the surface, it is called as peritrichous. And if the flagella is absent, then it should be called as atrichous. Okay, so once again I am repeating, if a single flagella is present on one end of the cell, it is called as monotrichous. Many number of flagella at one end of the cell, lophotrichous. On both the ends, amphitrichous. All over the cell surface, peritrichous. And absence of flagella is called as atrichous. Same thing, this monotrichous flagella we can see in Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Lophotrichous, one tuft at one side, can be seen in Pseudomonas fluorescens. Amphitrichous on both ends can be seen in Alcaligens. Peritrichous all over the surface, the flagella can be seen in Salmonella typhi. Now we have completed one component, that is flagella. Coming to the second part, that is pili, or it is also called as fimbria. This pili can be seen in gram negative bacteria, and as flagella is made of flagellin protein, pili is made of pilin protein. And compared to flagella, they are smaller, shorter, and more in number. And pili are longer than fimbria. These two terms, they are having a minor difference. So when we compare pili and fimbria, pili are more longer than fimbria, and the production or the formation of pili is controlled by genes which are present on the plasmids. Okay, so this pilin protein consists of 163 amino acids. And as we have seen, flagella are helping in motility, but these pili, they don't help in motility. Apart from this, they are having another functions. And there are 5 to 6 types of pili. So coming to the functions, they possess antigenic property. What is this antigenic property is, if whenever a bacteria is entering into host, okay, the host immune system will raise antibodies towards this pili. So it is acting as a antigen. Now fimbria agglutinates with the blood cells. We see blood agglutination reactions. It is nothing but a clumping of blood cells. It is due to fimbria, and fimbria affects metabolic activity of the cells. And coming to the sex pili, we have heard it. It helps in conjugation. That is, in this conjugation, there will be transfer of genetic material from one cell to another. So this sex pili will help in the transfer of genetic material from one cell to another by a process called as conjugation. Some pili are used for attachment. Some cells, as they are phagocytes or pathogens. Okay, Pathogens means they are causing diseases. They are entering into another organisms and they are causing diseases. So when they enter into another organisms, for example, humans, they help in attachment to the host surfaces. And the third component is capsule or slime layer. Here, bacteria synthesize slimy or gummy material. Okay, after the cell wall. Okay, on outer side of the cell wall, bacteria will synthesize some slimy material. That slimy material is called as nothing but capsule or slime layer, generally called as glycocalyx. Another term for this is glycocalyx if it is tightly bound. Okay, so the slimy material or glycocalyx, if it is tightly bound, then it should be called as capsule, or if it is loosely bound, it should be called as a slime layer. This difference should be remembered. Okay, if the slimy material, if it is tightly bound, it should be called as capsule, and if it is loosely bound, it is called as slime layer. Now, the one of the major function of capsule is pathogenicity. What is pathogenicity? It is the ability to cause disease in the host. Okay, so if it want to cause the disease, then the bacteria should have capsule, or in other words, capsule is helping the bacteria in escaping the host immune system. Okay, now this capsule can be made of polysaccharides. Polysaccharides is nothing but saccharides means sugar. Okay, so polysaccharide capsule can be seen in Streptococcus and Xanthomonas, and capsule can also be made of polypeptides, that is amino acids. So it is seen in Bacillus subtilis and Bacillus anthracis. So the composition of capsule is varying. It can be a polysaccharide or polypeptide. In the slides, we can see the staining of the cells, and this colorless zones around the bacteria are nothing but capsules. Okay, so capsule can be stained by negative staining in this slide. Next. So as we have discussed in the last slide, this capsule is helping in virulence or pathogenicity. Okay, so it means it is able to cause a disease with the help of capsule, and it protects the cell from desiccation or drying. Okay, desiccation means drying. So if a capsule is present, it consists as capsule is consists of more amount of water. It helps in protecting the cell from drying and exclude bacterial, viruses and toxins. Okay, so presence of capsule is also helping the bacteria in avoiding viruses. Okay, virus cannot attach to the bacteria due to presence of capsule, and it is also helping the cell from toxins. For attaching to streams, plant roots, teeth, tissues and other bacteria, as we have discussed in the previous slide, capsule is also helping in attachment to the surfaces, and these capsules are species specific. As we have seen in flagella, it is helping as a taxonomic tool. Capsule is also helpful in identifying some of the cells, and this capsule is acting as a buffer between cell and external environment, as it is present after the cell wall or outer side of the cell wall. It is acting as a kind of buffer between the actual cell and the environment. Next component present inner to the capsule is cell wall. Okay, so this cell wall, it is present, as I said, present beneath the capsule, and it protects the cell from osmotic pressure and gives shape to the cell. As we have seen, bacteria are exhibiting different shapes: spherical, bacillus shape, spirillum shape. Okay, whatever the shape is there. So that shape is given actually due to presence of the cell wall. If cell wall is not there, then there won't be any shape to the cell. Now, the thickness of the cell wall will be 100 to 250 angstroms, and based on the presence of cell wall, or based on the composition of the cell wall, bacteria are of two types. One is gram positive and the other one is gram negative. So this cell wall, the main component of the cell wall is peptidoglycan. Okay, so there is a need to understand the structure of peptidoglycan. Okay, so this peptidoglycan, it consists of three parts, that is backbone, tetrapeptide side chain, and the peptide interbridge or crosslink. These things we can understand by seeing a diagram in later slides. Peptidoglycan monomer, right? Peptidoglycan is mainly made of two molecules, that is NAG and NAM. Okay, what is NAM? N-acetyl muramic acid. What is NAG? N-acetyl glucosamine. Okay, this is NAG and acetyl glucosamine. NAM means N-acetyl muramic acid. These are the important molecules which are acting as a bricks in the construction of the peptidoglycan. Okay, NAG and NAM both are interconnected, and to the NAM there is a tetrapeptide. This is the tetrapeptide. Tetra means four. Okay, 1 2 3 4, and these are the amino acids. Okay, what are these? Alanine glutamic acid, L-alanine, D-glutamic acid, mesodiaminopimelic acid, and D-alanine. So these four amino acids are making tetrapeptide. Okay, so in the previous slide we have seen the backbone. Backbone is NAG and NAM, and tetrapeptide side chain we have seen. Peptide interbridge or cross-link. Now these units will be cross-linked to each other. Now here we can see the cross-link. This is the NAG and NAM polymer on both the sides, and this is the cross-link. This is the tetrapeptide side chain, and these two tetrapeptide side chains are joined by peptide cross-link. This is the peptide cross-link. So, as I said, the cell wall structure is varying in both gram positive and gram negative cells. Coming to the first gram positive cell wall, here in gram positive cell wall, the peptidoglycan layers are more in number compared to the gram negative cell wall. In gram negative cell wall, only very few peptidoglycan layers are there, and in gram positive cell wall, many layers of peptidoglycan are there. This is the first difference between these gram positive and gram negative cells. Okay, apart from this, what are there in gram positive cell wall? So inner to the cell wall there will be a membrane. Okay, that is cell membrane. It is a lipopolysaccharide membrane. These are the lipids and these are the proteins, lipoproteinaceous membrane. And after this, on outer side of the cytoplasmic membrane, there is a cell wall consisting of the peptidoglycan. In this peptidoglycan, after this peptidoglycan, in this peptidoglycan there are some proteins, that is membrane lipoteichoic acid. Teichoic acids are there, and then cell wall teichoic acid. Here membrane lipoteichoic acids, they are originating from the membrane, and cell wall teichoic acids, they are originating from the cell wall. And some polysaccharides are also there. Cell wall specific polysaccharides are also can be seen in this gram positive cell wall. Coming to the gram negative cell wall, here apart from this is the membrane, this is the peptidoglycan, and outer side of the peptidoglycan there is a lipopolysaccharide membrane. Okay, so this is the lipids, and this is the lipopolysaccharide membrane. Here in lipopolysaccharides, we can see different antigens, O antigen, A antigen. Okay, and these are the porins or sieve proteins, or the ports present in the cell wall. This is the lipid A, and this is the O antigen, and this is the pore. And the space present between the membrane and the cell wall is called as periplasmic space. The space present between membrane and the cell wall is called as periplasmic space. Okay, so this is the cytoplasmic membrane, this is the periplasmic, and this is the outer membrane, and this is the lipopolysaccharide, which can be seen in the gram negative cells. Now, coming to the differences in gram positive and gram negative cell walls. Here the cell wall is 150 to 200 angstroms thick, and in gram negative cells it is around 75 to 120 angstroms thick. And here the cell wall contains less percentage of lipids. Lipids are less, here lipids are more, and here amino acids are less, and here amino acids are more, and muramic acid is very high, that is peptidoglycan is high. Here peptidoglycan is less, and teichoic acid is present in gram positive cells, and it is absent in gram negative cells. And lipopolysaccharides are absent in gram positive, whereas they are present in the gram negative cells. Flagella Polar flagella are absent, where they can be seen in gram-negative cells, and gram-positive cells are sensitive to penicillin due to more amount of peptidoglycan, whereas gram-negative cells are not sensitive to penicillin, whereas they are more sensitive to streptomycin. Functions of the cell wall. So as we have seen, this cell wall is protecting the or giving the shape to the cell, and it is acting as a protective barrier and allowing molecules up to particular size. It means it won't allow all the molecules to enter into the cell. It is a selective barrier for the other molecules to enter into the cell. Antigen side chain of LPS is showing antigen specificity. In the gram-negative cell wall, we have seen antigen, O antigen. Okay, so that antigen is acting as a it is showing antigenicity in the cells, and matrix proteins are acting as receptors for nutrients, coalescence, and bacteriophages. Whatever proteins which are present in the cell wall, they are acting as a receptors. Okay, so there to these proteins, some nutrients can be attached, some bacteriophages can attach, or coalescence can be attached, and protects the cell protoplasm from mechanical damage and from osmotic rupture or lysis. If there is no cell wall, okay, cell can be protected from osmotic pressure or other pressure. So this cell wall is protecting the cell from osmotic lysis or mechanical damage, and it is a location for respiration, photosynthesis, lipid synthesis, etc. So this cell wall is acting as a site where there can be processes like respiration, photosynthesis, etc. can take place. Now coming to the plasma membrane. So below the cell wall, we have seen there is a plasma membrane. So this plasma membrane is mostly lipoproteinaceous membrane. So as I said, it is present below cell wall, and it is having 8 to 15% of cell dry weight, and this is the thickness, and it is mainly made of lipids and protein. Here in if we see the concentration or the quantity of proteins, 70% proteins and 30% lipids are there in this lipoproteinaceous membrane. And proteins are of two types: peripheral and integral proteins. Peripheral means they are present towards outer side of the membrane, and integral means they are present inside the membrane. And this cell membrane, it is selectively permeable. Okay, selectively permeable means it is allowing a particular group of compounds to enter into the cell, whereas and it is also having trilaminar unit membrane structure. Okay, it is a model which is showing the structure of the cell membrane, and phospholipids have charged polar ends and non-polar tails. As we in the diagram we have seen, lipids are having polar heads, okay, and non-polar tail. Tails are towards the center and heads are towards the end. If we can see the diagram again, hopenoids provide stability to membrane. In the membrane, hopenoids are also there, which is giving stability. And eukaryotic plasma membrane contains sterols and high protein content. So this is the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic plasma membrane. In eukaryotes, these membranes are having sterols and protein content is very high. Okay, so here if you see, these are the hopenoids, some small molecules which are present within the membrane. This is the lipids, polar head, hydrophobic tails, okay, and this is the glycolipid, okay, sugars and lipids integrated here, and these are the proteins. Integral proteins means they are spanning the entire membrane, okay, where they are present inside the membrane, outside the membrane also. And this is the alpha helix hydrophobic, and this is the peripheral protein. Okay, this is the integral protein, and this is the peripheral protein because they are present towards the end of the or outer side of the membrane. Now, what are hopenoids? These are the pentacyclisterol-like molecules. Now, as we have seen in this previous slide, that in eukaryotes there are sterols in this membrane. So, resembling to these sterols, some compounds or some molecules are present in prokaryotes. They are called as hopenoids. So, these hopenoids are synthesized from same precursor as steroids. So, this precursor is same for steroids and hopenoids. This as we have seen, they are providing stability to the plasma membrane. So what is the function of this plasma membrane? It is helping in transportation of nutrients, means it is helping in taking up the nutrients from the environment, and it also contains enzyme systems, and it is a site for electron transport and oxidative phosphorylation. So we know basic these are the basic mechanisms which are happening on the cell membrane, and it is giving specific attachment sites for chromosome and plasmid replication. For replication also, this membrane is acting as a attachment site. And coming to the mesosomes, they are the invaginations of the plasma membrane, mostly seen in gram-positive bacteria, and these mesosomes are helping the cell for cell division or replication, and for oxidative phosphorylation also. And they are not a part of bacterial cell, may be formed during some special conditions.